Today on Locked On Rockies, Fanduel's futures for baseball have started coming out, and the Colorado Rockies are in a similar situation to last year.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 7th day of January in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. It's the best way to interact with the show. It's the best way to be part of the show is by heading over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and firing off your comments there. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. And today's episode, we are diving into the win projections for the Colorado Rockies, at least according to the friends in Vegas and our friends at Fanduel as well. We're going to dive into all of that and more. But before we do that, speaking of Fanduel, today's episode is brought to you by Fanduel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with Fanduel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so you head over to Fanduel, right? Maybe you want to use one of those bonus bets to get in on a Rockies future. And right now, over on FanDuel, the win totals are out because the Rockies plus 50,000 to win the NL West, plus 20,000 to be the National League winner, and plus 50,000 again to win the World Series. So, of course, you're sitting there like, well, incredibly unlikely that happens. And then you get to the win totals. And it's set at 59.5. Minus 115 for over, minus 105 for under. And that dropped. It's a familiar line. 60.5 was last year. And I guess when I see this, my first initial reaction is like, roster-wise, do we really think the Rockies are worse than last year? And again, and so I guess let me just play spoiler here. Let me just set the stage for you here in for this. I'll say it like I did last year. I think this team is better than that number. Again, I'm not sitting here saying 80 wins. I'm not even saying 70 wins. I think I've said multiple times this offseason that I do believe that 70 wins is probably the high ceiling for this team. But man, does it not continue to sting to see 59.5. 59.5. And remember, if you took the over on the 60 wins last year, 60.5 wins last year, you were sweating up until the end. The main reason why I think that this is something that will be different for the Rockies this go round. Why I do think that the Rockies are going to be better. One, I have to trust in this pitching staff. At least not fully like, whoa, oh my goodness, like got to do it, no matter, like I'm so confident. No, I just have to believe that this team with two very important pitchers, at least one. I mean, I guess the jury's still out. But with how much of an impact, we talked about this in the last episode that we showed, with how much of an impact that Germán Marquez can have on this team, mixed with a Nolan Jones bounce back and two young players developing into something great, I think it's very, very likely the Rockies smash this. Because I guess it depends on what you mean by smash. But if it's 59.5 and the Rockies get 65 wins, that's 5.5 wins more than projected for the Rockies there. So my point is, the roster is very close. to last year. But in the areas that we will hopefully see improvement, the areas that we will see growth, I think will be enough to at least set the stage for it. And let's take a look here as well at the schedule. And we've done this a couple of times. The big way that this is, the tone is going to get set in April. We know this. We've seen this before, and we've seen how it is. If the Rockies go on another bad start, if the Rockies can't start the season strong at all, they are going to fight tooth and nail to get themselves back to that 60-ish win total. And when you initially look at the schedule, as we've gone down a few times, it is not an easy schedule to start the season here. When you're looking at the month of April here, you're looking at all playoff teams, 2 teams that are hopefully 3 teams, I should say, that are fighting to improve themselves, and then an Oakland team that you don't really know what's going on. You what will the A's be next year? And it's interesting. It still says Oakland on ESPN's website. But so again, and that's a home series there. The first home series is Oakland and Milwaukee. That's an interesting way to start the season. It's weird with Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee dominates, so the Rockies or the Rockies annoy the Brewers. Remember the late series last year where the Rockies were playing some stellar defense and just being a total annoyance to the Brewers there late in that one. But again, if you're going to take this and you're going to sit there and you're looking for how will the Rockies be able to handle this? How will the Rockies hang, basically? And what will this season look like? It's going to depend on how the Rockies play Tampa and Oakland and Washington and Cincinnati in this month. You got Kansas City too, but Kansas City, I think we can safely sit here and just say that Kansas City's legit. Like I ain't sitting here gonna say that the Kansas City Royals are not a team that's eyeing playoffs and doing some damage in those playoffs. But if you win the series, especially because the big thing about the Cincinnati, Washington, Milwaukee, and Oakland series here in the first month, those are the home series. So if you and this leads into that over and under right there. If the Rockies can set the stage of a team that is very good at Coors Field, is a team that's very good at home, like they have in the past, and with bad teams and with bad records, that'll help them in this journey to getting to hitting the over here. Because that is going to be one of the best signs too for the Rockies. One of the things that we noticed, and one of the things that was a problem for the Rockies, especially in the beginning of last season, was the fact that this team was not really good at home overall. To start the season here. Let me see. I want to get the Rockies here from 2024. Anyway, it's not being friendly with me here. Regardless, I'm going to go back to the first half here. When you look at games at home, to start the season last year in April, series lost to Tampa Bay, series lost to Arizona. So let's see. In the first 6 games that the Rockies played at Coors Field, they went 2-4. Then in the next homestand, including, I guess, homestand, the Astro games don't really count there. So I'm actually going to take those out. But the next series that you play at Coors Field, you drop 2 of 3 to Seattle. You drop 2 out of 4 to San Diego. And then then you finally start cooking a little, getting some stuff going here in May. But to start the season and to start the month of April off with, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 5 wins out of in 5 home series last year. There you go. That's the huge. That is one of the massive difference makers, and that is also, again, one of the things that set the tone for last year. When the Rockies at least have always been able to lean back on the fact that they are a 500 team at home, or just about, or better than 500 in certain instances. And last year that really was. Let me get the actual Rockies record at home 2024. Okay, here we go. The Rockies last year were 7 games below 500 at home, 37 and 44 at home. In 2023, the Rockies finished again 37 and 44 at home. So, what can we determine also about the win totals here about 100 lost seasons? If the Rockies can avoid being under 500 at home or under 500 by 7ish games, the Rockies will hit the over of 60 wins, 59 and a half, whatever you want to call it. That is right, just right there. You can already point out the difference there. In the Rockies could avoid 100 losses last year if they are in 2023 for the first time ever, if they won 5 more games at home. We're not even touching the road record here for this. The Rockies, when they had 68 wins, and tell me that this wouldn't be a prime example of what next year could be. 41 and 40 at home, 68 and 94 that year. Let's go back to 2021. Let's see. 74 and 87, 48 and 33 at home. Let's go down to 2019 and tell me if you're starting to recognize a pattern here. The Rockies, 71 and 91, finished above the Padres in 2019, 43 and 38 at home. 2018, let's just keep it going just a little bit more. Rockies 91 and 72, 47 and 34 at home. And we'll do one more at 2017, 87 and 75, 46 and 35 at home. So the Rockies, if they play 500 or at 500 or a little bit above 500 if possible at home, they will smash this over. History has shown it. Why have the Rockies lost 100 games in back-to-back seasons? Is because they're below 500 at home. I mean, it's obviously not the only reasons, but when you're talking about, when you're focusing on, when you're looking for a key point for part of the struggles of the last 2 years, part of the reason why the Rockies have gotten away from what has worked for them in the past is because they've been bad at home. If this team was good when this team makes Coors Field an uncomfortable place to play, when this team is successful at Coors Field, they do not lose 100 games. I think it's pretty similar. I mean, I don't think it's that crazy to say. And especially as we're analyzing, can they hit this? That's the easiest marker to look at. That's the easiest that's the easiest factor to decide. So what would make them hit the under? Let's talk about that coming up next in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Gametime's got you covered when you need tickets. Just last second, planning ahead, they got you covered. And I know you love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. All of your favorite memories last year were probably attending a concert, doing something big, going to that big game. The energy and excitement is unforgettable. Now, Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking through the tickets. I think this is my favorite Gametime story. The Gametime got me to the All-Star game, and the only reason I was able to go is because I got an affordable ticket. I knew where I was sitting, and I was able to do so leading up to the game. It was so easy, so simple, and made me a Gametime fan forever. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show by firing off your Rockies hot takes, letting me know what's on your mind. We're going to close out the show with some Rockies YouTube comments here coming up in just a little bit. So, as we revisit our Groundhog Day kind of style episode here of basically retreading the same exact win-loss total as last year, with actually a dip in the line, which is just strange to me. Like, again, I just, the one thing I don't think that this team will be is worse than last year. And I'm not saying it's massively over there, but I just think that where the team is at and the pieces the team is planning on going with to start, mixed with the pitching rotation, I just don't think that this team is going to regress to being an under 60 win team. But how can that happen? Well, it's simple. If the Rockies struggle as a pitching staff, the Rockies' two big main pieces coming back to the rotation do not struggle after returning from very serious injury, then the Rockies are in a heap of trouble. If the Rockies are not only just bad but abysmal on the road this year, that can do it. I mean, let's just take a look here at. I mean, we haven't even gotten past April when we've been talking about this. But here's where the Rockies start on the road in April. Philly, and then they have a California homestand trip of San Diego and LA. Then they go to Kansas City, and then to start May off, they go to San Francisco, and then their next road trips, Texas, Arizona, the Cubs, the Mets, Miami, who they've often struggled with, Atlanta, Washington. I'm just going in order of who they're playing on the road here. Then you got Milwaukee on the road, Boston, Cincinnati. Those are going to be the another part of the huge thing. Just as important as it is for the Rockies to hit their over, the over on the win total is to be a good team at home. To avoid 100 losses, to avoid 59 wins, this team has to be marginally better on the road, at least something, because the Rockies on the road has been awful. I mean, horrendous on the road for years. I mean, and it goes deeper than this. 24-57 on the road last year. The Rockies 22-59 in 2023. And let's go back to even seasons before the 100 losses. 2022, 27-54, 2021, 26-54. I mean, the Rockies haven't won more than 30 games on the road in over 4 years. The last time they did so was, it's not 2019. It was 2018. What else happened in 2018? And that was an astounding 44-38 on the road. So again, just as if we're just like we were highlighting how important it is for this team to be successful at home. If you're going to be a good team, if you're going to show us something this year, you got to be better on the road, because if this team just continues to do stinker after stinker after stinker after stinker after stinker on the road, and you can basically just count on the Rockies losing road series, then the under might be appealing to you. Because again, I don't necessarily think this schedule is going to get all that easier in the second half of the season on the road. Trips to Baltimore and Cleveland as your first road trips in the second half, Arizona and St. Louis. You got a trips in Pittsburgh and Houston and San Diego and LA, and then you finish the year. And here's the big kicker, I think, especially when you're thinking about this line in general. If you're sitting at this 59.5 and you're sitting in the same situation that the Rockies were in last year, the Rockies finished the road with 6 games and in probably 2 of the most unfriendly hitter environments in all of baseball. The Rockies finished on the road at Seattle and at San Francisco. I mean, that if you're talking about a test of your road abilities, I mean, those 2 are it. A Mariners team with great pitching probably at that point, going to be hopefully fighting for a playoff spot if it all goes right for them. And then you go to San Francisco, the dreaded San Francisco. The road trips for the Rockies this year are not friendly by any means. You got some pretty tough trips out here into some pretty tough environments. But the good news is some teams you get at home, which will be the big difference maker as well. Yankees, for example, coming to Coors Field. That should be a really interesting series. That should be a fun one to kick things off there. We'll see how many home runs are hitting there. But I think truly that when you're looking at it, when you're looking at the lines to follow, those main factors are going to be it. The Rockies will hit the over of 59.5 if they are able to be a team that can play near 500 or at 500 ball at home. The Rockies can hit the under here if they are as bad as they have historically been on the road. And when you look at their road trips and you kind of think, oh boy, because again, how confident are you as a betting person if you're sitting there and you got Rockies? What is it? So it's even say you got the Rockies at 56, 57 wins at this point in the season, going into the final 6 games of the season. If you got Rockies at over 59.5, how confident are you that this team can go on the road at the end of the season against 2 teams that'll probably be fighting, hopefully fighting, in their eyes, fighting for playoffs? How can the Rockies handle going into their ballparks and being spoiler at that point? And I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be overly confident if that. I'll be sweating the whole time. I can tell you that much. Because the AL West is going to be, or the NL West is going to be real interesting. I'm sorry. No, the AL West. I meant to say the AL West is going to be real interesting. The NL West could be interesting as well. But the AL West specifically, because of who is going to be the team that comes out on top. Are the Rangers with the deals and the bouncing back? Is it going to be the Mariners with even their lack of moves and things? Regardless, those are really going to be the main factors there. I mean, you can kind of see the trends in what it is. But again, if I'm taking this, I'm taking the over. I truly do believe that this team is going to be a little bit better. I do believe that this team will be marginally better than it was last year, led by the most interesting pitching staff the team has had in 2 years, mixed with the fact that I do believe that Brenton Doyle and Ezekiel Tovar will continue on their paths, and I do believe that the Rockies have a breakout person waiting at first base in Michael Toglia, mixed with hopefully Ryan McMahon being able to get some help from throughout the lineup and not having to try to do too much like it seems like he's had to do, and the hope that Nolan Jones bounce back as well. And we'll get a little bit more of an idea of this. We'll get a little bit more of a look at what some of the projections are for the Rockies tomorrow. Actually, the Zips projections are out for the Rockies there from, I believe it's, what is that, Fangraphs? Yeah, Fangraphs. Doing it there. So we're going to take a look at those projections for the Colorado Rockies tomorrow because it's kind of like a beginning of the year, not the baseball year, but beginning of the year prediction time is in full effect. So we'll dive into those projections and kind of go by player basis tomorrow. But overall, do I think the Rockies will be a great team this year? In fact, do I even think the Rockies will be a quote-unquote good team this year? No, not exactly. I don't think that this team can't hit 60 wins, though. I don't think that this team is I would be taking the over up until like 65.5, personally. That's, and I do that not because I'm abundantly confident in the Colorado Rockies, but I do think that this team, while really bad, they're starting to show at least some. I think they've hit the bottom, and it might be it won't be. I don't think it's going to be a ricochet, but I think a slow float up maybe will be the case. All right, let's take a quick break and let's finish up the show with your YouTube comments. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to let you know about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Fanduel. And we've been talking about Fanduel this whole episode, from big upsets to game-winning drives. The NFL playoffs are better with Fanduel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. You can check out all the action for yourself. Like we said, we just spent this whole episode diving into the Rockies futures, and you can check out more futures available for baseball or get in on all the NFL action. Maybe if you want to back the Broncos as they're going for the upset here in the wild card round. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with Fanduel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And a reminder to please play responsibly. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. All right, let's take a look at some YouTube comment questions. We've had a few. We've had a good chunk of some, but let's start here with David asking, what are the chances to let Germán walk? I think we will find that out throughout the year, but could I see a Germán Marquez extension if things go well to start this first half of the season for the Rockies? Yes, I can. Can I see the Rockies thinking about moving on and going with some of the young arms and committing there? I can as well. But I do think the Rockies, when they view Germán Marquez, I think they view Germán Marquez as the guy that's going. He's a little younger than Kyle. I think they view those two guys as the pitchers that are going to help get them to the next crop of young pitchers. But on the flip side, John Gray walked. It wouldn't be the first time a Rockies player that fit well into the equation and a position that they need was walked. So I'm gonna put it right now as a 50-50 coin flip, to be totally honest. I think it's going to be totally dependent on how the first half of the season goes. Let's see. Christopher coming in with the Trevor Bauer comments again. Said it multiple times. Not going to happen. Team is not going to go there. They would have already done it if they were interested. There's a reason why they haven't done it. Kind of said it about a million times by this point. But follows up with my other idea would be to get rid of the coaching staff. Bud Black is okay. I would get some newer and fresh. Gabe, that's Kapler, would be a great fit. Look at his track history, and with younger team than the Giants, he will do well. I think it's interesting to think about what managers might be able to do stuff with the Rockies, because I do think that there are managers out there that that look at the Rockies as a really, really interesting project and probably have some ideas on what they could do. But the manager has a big role in it, and the manager and Bud Black was a big reason why the Rockies pitchers were successful in the beginning. So the manager plays a key role there. So I don't, a change. Prove it year, right? I mean, it's been a prove it year for a while, but it's highlighted by this coaching staff has got to show us something here this year. Scout says, I grew up in the very northeast of the country. My life was baseball and the Red Sox. It was always our year, yet never happened. We would get so close, and the curse would stomp us into the ground. When the Sox finally won, the excitement disappeared. It wasn't the same anymore. We no longer had the feeling that this could be our year. The years of anticipation were gone. Enjoy the process, no matter how brutal and frustrating it can get. As for being a Rockies fan, I was stationed for many years in the Springs. I would head to Denver as much as I could to watch the Rockies and Avs and get away from barracks life. They took my mind off the military and allowed me to escape for a few hours. In the mid-'90s to early 2000s, they sure had some good teams. Walker, Burks, Vinny, Bichette, Galarraga, and a rookie Helton, to name the few. Thanks for sharing that, Scout. Yeah, I mean, that's a good reminder, too. Sports are fun. Sports are a good escape. Sports are entertainment. I'm glad that the Rockies were able to help get your mind off things for a little bit there when you're spending your time doing a real tough job there. David asks, why isn't MLB forced Rockies to sell the team and bring in new owners who want to compete, reinvest shared revenue back out on the playing field, putting together a better roster? Mumford hasn't done crap this offseason. Yeah, I'm sure it's deeper than that with that. I'm sure I think when it comes to who owners that Major League Baseball is annoyed with, I don't think Dick Mumford is one of those. Let's see. We'll do this because I'm gonna save a couple of these for tomorrow's show here. So let's start with this one, or let's finish with this one. If Colorado is in a win now mode, third base Ryan McMahon, outfielder Sam Hilliard to Kansas City for closer James McArthur, catcher Freddie Furman or Ramon Ramirez, Mikael Garcia, and MJ Melendez. If Colorado wants prospects, third base Ryan McMahon to Kansas City for starting pitcher Frank Mosiato, 10. Assuming these are prospect rankings. Catcher Ramon Ramirez, 11, and outfielder Spencer Nivens, 30. Now, Well, I love where your head's at. I love putting these projections in. I would be shocked if the Rockies were able to pull off a 4-for-2 like that. I mean, Ryan McMahon, I just don't think is going to have this crazy trade value to do that, and especially throwing in Sam Hilliard there. All-star Gold Glove caliber third baseman certainly has some ring to it, but I do think that there's enough warning signs about Ryan McMahon that limit your ability to do something big. And I don't think the Rockies are necessarily hunting catcher right now with Drew Romo going out there, trying to get him reps there and trying to figure out what they're going to do with Hunter Goodman. On the flip side, though, this would be great. This is the exact type of these are the type of philosophies you'd have to look for. And if the Rockies really are trying to do something different, trying to do something drastically, trading Ryan McMahon would be it. Do I think the Rockies trade Ryan McMahon though? No, I think that they've had the possibilities. I think that they like, again, just take last year's trade deadline where they talked to him. He's got the family, he's got this, he's got that. I just don't see it happening. I think I think that is definitely a Rockies guy who really likes, again, win-loss record might be one thing, but there are guys that like being with the Rockies, that like being in the organization and like being in Colorado. And I think Ryan McMahon is one of those guys. So, yeah, I mean, if Colorado wants to make those moves, definitely, you'd have to think Ryan McMahon would be probably one of the key pieces there. A couple more questions we didn't get to here, including an inside scoop on Sasaki. And we'll have to talk about that tomorrow, actually, because we are out of time on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and available on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes, just like we were just reading, and so much more in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Like the video, subscribe there, keep supporting folks, because you all have been incredible. Until next time, folks, this is Paul Holden saying so long from Locked On Rockies. But for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all available too.